Alternatives. Chuck O'Shelley.
And so it is the 16th day of June, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar, and this is indeed the O'Shelley effect. At this very moment, we are originating from a bunch of live streams, not my own, but we will remedy that shortly, and if you hear this in podcast, it won't make sense because it's all going to be together, so there you go. It is a Friars Day night, and I do point out those names. You know, yesterday was Thor's Day, today is Friars Day, tomorrow is Saturn Day. Yes, indeed, these are the root words that go along with your calendar days, allegedly. And you need to keep that in mind. Why? Because a lot of things are hidden in plain sight in the language that we use on a daily basis. And guess who I have with me? The guy who really taught me this, he doesn't know that, but he did, who taught me this to begin with, is that so many things are hidden right there within the language that I use on a daily basis. Jordan Maxwell. Now, Jordan Maxwell is a well-known figure in many different alternative thought circles, for sure, and somewhat controversial. We covered last time how some people have attacked him for pointless reasons based on his name, which is absolutely ridiculous in my estimation, and we covered that very well. You can look in the archives at O'Shelley.com and find out what that's all about. We're not going to talk about that tonight. What we're going to talk about is sort of what's happening, what's always been happening, and once again, a refresher on how you need to examine exactly what type of communication is dictating your actions on a daily basis, mine included, everybody's actually, because, well, I think the language and the use of discussions and interactions have all been weaponized. Enough from me. Jordan Maxwell, sir, how are you this evening? Oh, by the way, before I forget, and just hold on, don't answer yet, Jordan. JordanMaxwellShow.com is the website to go to for Jordan's work. JordanMaxwellShow.com. I think that's correct, right, Jordan?
Yes, but some people have when looking for me, will put the Jordan Maxwell Show, and that goes to somebody else totally who's taken my name and using it. So the Jordan Maxwell Show is not mine. My website is simply JordanMaxwellShow.com.
Right, exactly as I said it. Begin it with the J, not the T. Jordan Maxwell. So wow, I just screwed up. JordanMaxwellShow.com. That is the correct address, and I just spelled it out. So I will mention it again before we're done. Absolutely. Of course, you've written a lot of things. You've done a lot of appearances. You've done your own radio shows, your own videos, all of that. And I've been privileged to interview you several times. I want to begin with a thought that I have that I wanted to attack with you. And I use the word attack because I have no other choice, I feel, Jordan. We need to attack some of these constructs that have been placed in front of us. This idea is as follows. I was born in what we would consider to be the X generation, so I will speak from my own perspective since I do understand my own generation fairly well, I believe. It seems as though we have a trend where adulthood is stunted. Individuals that, you know, we had this talk when we were in our 20s about how it would be when we were in charge, when we took over the facilities of power, when we were the ones that people came to as the authorities. What I am observing is that my generation skipped its turn. They have decided to remain in a perpetual state of adolescence, a stunted or arrested development, all of these terms that we hear regarding those who have not embraced their adulthood, their independence, their individuality. And obviously, I don't feel as though I belong in that category, but I do recognize that many people in my age group are of this persuasion. What do you think of that observation?
I think it's absolutely correct. I've been saying, I don't know now, from 56 years ago, I was saying that, people are not going to be able to change anything. They can cry and complain about the system we live under and all the injustices and all that. We can talk all day about them and cry about them and go to courts and try and do something, but you're not going to be able to do anything. Why? Because we don't have the power to do anything. Why? Because knowledge is power. And the people have no understanding whatsoever of how the world really works and where it came from, how it got here, on what foundations. They don't know the world they live in. So therefore, they have no knowledge, they have no power. And the basis for that, of course, there's a lot of people finally around the world waking up to what I've been saying for 56 years. I started talking about this back in 1959 when I was 19 years old. And I'm tired. I'm wore out after this, many years of doing this, 56 years of doing this, lecturing and going around town, talking to audiences, etc. And then in the last 35 years of doing it professionally, traveling around the world, giving lectures and doing over 600 radio shows and producing 25 videos and being on television and appearing on national networks, etc. But finally, people are beginning to realize that the world they live in is not what they thought it was, and it's now finally reached the bottom. The world that we live in has hit the bottom quite a few years ago and is now going beneath the bottom, so that now we begin to see, yes, it's unfortunate, but it's true. The entire world of mankind is been lied to, is so corrupt, so ignorant, so ill-informed, so dim-witted, self-centered, egotistical, unread, generally ignorant and dim-witted, that there is no possible way, in my personal view, for the human race to dig out from under the profound darkness that it lives under. And so I don't think there's any hope for the human race, even when I hear, and I know, I have so many times heard people saying to me, well, people are waking up now. People are now waking up. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I say, yes, the light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming. And people waking up, of course they're waking up. But that's what people do when they're in federal prison. In prisons, every morning, the prisoners wake up. Well, it's about goddamn time they wake up. Hell, I've been talking about this since 1959, about the corruption, the incredible lies, deception of the entire superstructure of Western civilization, and the incredible treason, lunacy, lies, deception. It's just amazing how much has been done in the past 100 years to the human family. And the country, I believe, that ever existed was the USA, because it offered, for the first time on the history of the world, it offered at least the idea and the concept of freedom and liberty and justice and intelligence and wisdom and ability to read and study and think and be free to think. So if nothing else, with all of its problems and all of its imperfections, that God knows the U.S. has all of the imperfections, but at least the original United States of America, not the monstrosity of rape that we have today, but the original United States of America offered, I think, the best of all worlds, by dividing the government into three separate parts and making sure all parts were equal to each other. And so I watched the history of the country and the history of the world and the history and the prehistoric world, and after looking at this stuff for so many years, I am totally convinced that, there's possible, I'm not God, I don't know for sure, but there very well might be some hope for the human family.
Well,
I just don't see it. I've been looking at this world for almost 60 years and 56 years of talking to people. I don't see it. I don't see that the human race has the ability to work its way out from under the corruption. And the reason why is because I do not believe that the general public understands the significance of how this world actually, in fact, works. And unless you go down deep into the darkness and the underbelly of civilization and find out where things originated, where did we get the idea, the very concept of religion or worship of God, where did we get the idea for banks, government, and especially pusillanimous ideas like royalty, where some people ride around in gold chariots and give everybody else the finger and flip their cigarettes on your children while you crawl on your knees and beat yourself in sackcloth and ashes when you see the queen mum and the queen and the king and all that bull. When they ride around in gold chariots and murder people and make their money off of selling drugs to your children, my Lord and my God, the human race is just an incredible monstrosity. And so, I use my age as an excuse because I'm an old man, curmudgeon. He's always bad-mouthing. But I know what I'm talking about. I've been warning people since 1960 in lectures about the corruption that was coming, the New World Order I was talking about back in 61. Today, now the New World Order is in your face. And so I saw it coming a long time ago. I understood it. I don't know how, but I did. I understood it. And I knew where it was going to go eventually, given the 60 or 80 years, where it would be. And so now today I look at the world around me and I realize that there is not one single place on the earth that is not totally and absolutely corrupt, period. And so when you get a system called Western Christian civilization, which is based on lies, deception, fraud, incredible treason, well, I think we have finally caught up with ourselves. And I think if there is a light at the end of the tunnel, as I said, it's a train coming. Because we're not going to change the human race. We're too far gone. The human race is far, far too corrupt, ignorant, ill-informed, stupefied, dim-witted, self-centered, and egotistical, and too proud to sit back and at least look at yourself and look at your government and look what you've allowed to happen in your name. So I do the best I can, realizing that I'm not here much longer. My heart is very bad, and I know it. And I know I could go at any day now because that's how bad off I am. Nobody knows how bad off I am, but I do. And I know how bad my health is and my heart is. So I feel that, well, at least I did the best I could with nothing. I wasn't wealthy. I didn't come from a Trump family. And so I just did the best I could over the years, and I paid a hell of a terrible price for it. But I feel at least I did something. So if, and it's a big if, but if there is something on the other side of this life, and I am, in point of fact, to be confronted by a higher power, I don't know. But if there is something like that on the other side, at least I know I can say, well, go back and look at my record. Go back and look at my life. I did the best I could with nothing. And I fought against the crowd. I fought against my fellow man, people who are supposedly intelligent adults who have called me every name you can think of, charged me with every kind of criminality you can imagine, all because, like the Apostle Paul says in the Bible, have I become your enemy because I tell you the truth? So I'm well aware that people talking about they want to know the truth and they're looking for truth. Most people are looking for their truth. They don't want the truth.
Right.
If you want the truth, the whole picture, because truth is one ball of wax. You can't just get the truth in one area. It's all one story. And so the truth is your religions are false, lies, deception. Your banks and government, your educational system, your military, the entire superstructure of what we call humanity and civilization is based on dark, filthy, degenerate, murderous, bloodshed, violence, stupidity. It's just an extraordinary story when you look at the history of the human family. Where we've come from, where we are now, and if you've got any brains, you know where we're going. It's not going to be pretty. It's getting darker every day. So my feeling is if there is a God, if there is some sort of a higher dimension in the universe that bends toward justice, like Martin Luther King said, if there is something out there that is powerful enough to save this experiment that we call the human family, that would be wonderful. But I haven't seen it in all of my years. I've only seen the evil operating with impunity. Evil can do anything it wants, and people will go along with it. Albert Einstein observed once that the world is a very dangerous place, he said. The world is a very dangerous place, not because bad people do bad things, but because good people don't do a damn thing. They don't do nothing. They just sit there and watch it all happening and don't say anything, don't know nothing, just drink their beer and watch the basketball game while the world around them is crumbling. And
well,
why?
Let me interrupt
nobody
you there,
wants to take the responsibility for looking at this. And the one thing that's missing is that in this world, intellectual honesty is totally gone now out of the human family. Intellectual honesty. People look at crap and lies and deception and act like they don't see it. Well, stick around. It's going to get worse.
No, and let me just interrupt you to say this. The only reason why this is a sad condition, Jordan, I mean, look, I agree with you that all you can see at this point is the darkness because it is piled so high as to blot out the sun around us. I mean, that is
right.
Literally the way I see it. But the fact is, the only reason why this is a sad state of affairs because I could accept this and say, well, I was born into a darkness and a reality of darkness, and therefore this is where I shall perish, and that's fine. I would accept that if that were the case. But the thing that is sad to me is that I believe that we as a human species have the ability to turn this around at any moment. I really do feel that. And it's just simply, like you said, the laziness, the lack of intellectual integrity, the lack of willingness to really truly examine how they've been manipulated. Look, even when people talk about words like liberty, the word liberty comes from somewhere else, which is not very liberty-like. If you think about the way we use that word, yep. It comes from the ancient goddesses. Let's just say. Now, look, I'm not going to get into it too deeply, but even the word justice and the representation of justice is all based on something that people think of as an even-handed and fair system. It is not. And I think these things were actually, like the United States, it was a great idea on some levels, but I think they built in things that were meant to sabotage it as we went along. And it's evident to me because of the symbology of the blindfolded lady with the scales. Those scales are not meant to be balanced. And in fact, the idea that justice is supposed to be equal and all of those principles that they told us about, when we were kids. Obviously, you and I are in two different generations, but trust me, they told us the very same type of tales about how this was the place where everything is fair. You have a fair chance. You can be anything. You can do anything. You have the ability to make your way as you please, as you choose, so long, effectively almost saying, so long as you do no harm to others, you can have anything you want. And that is not the reality of the system. In fact, what the reality of the system is those that do the most harm are the ones who garner what it is they want. Those who poison others are the ones who benefit. And it is exactly the opposite of what they told us. Now, that's not to say that we should all have been fools our whole lives. Many of us wake up. But, see, waking up is not the whole of the process. See, an animated person who walks around but has no thought of his own, well, that sounds quite a bit like a zombie to me, you know, that archetype. And that is what we're seeing. People that are falling into line, falling into herds, very much like the comic book zombies and the horror show zombies, except one problem, Jordan. This is the reality in which we live, right?
Of course. It's in your face. They're trying to tell you that. Hollywood is trying every way possible to tell you what the world sees you as, sees the American people as zombies. You are the Simpsons, a dopey, dim-witted, silly-ass family, and everything you do is stupid. Your teenagers are like, what is it, Beavis and Butthead. Your children are like, and so Hollywood is telling you everything is very foul and dirty. And picturing the American people as stupid and dim-witted, Beavis and Butthead, like I said, and Simpsons, and all the rest of these Hollywood productions are all trying to tell you. You know, I've talked to people who are in the know about how law works, and all land, all dirt, land in America is under cemetery law. I've heard this from people who are supposedly knowledgeable in real estate, and all land all the land in America is under a particular kind of law called cemetery law. And
what does that mean? What does that mean? Because that's a very nefarious sounding statement. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure of the full implications, but the general idea is that cemetery gives us, comes from the word, obviously comes from cement, because that's what you find in a cemetery is cement. And so, and that's what our whole country is cement, buildings and bridges and highways, etc. So we're under a particular kind of hidden, occult, hidden law. And this is what my whole life I have spent looking at the occult world, the hidden world of words and terms and phrases and how we are being misled, deceived, and mocked, and actually led into our bondage because we don't understand the words. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I've said this before. You probably have heard me say it before, but I'm going to say it again. If you have a two-story building and you're going to put a lot of weight on the second floor, like printing presses or storing cars or whatever, the smart thing to do before you do that is to go downstairs with the building inspector, remove the ceiling tiles downstairs, and go up and look at the foundation of that floor to see if it's going to hold that kind of weight before you go building on it. And so what you're doing is you're standing under the foundation you're going to build on. That's where we get the word understanding. So if you don't stand under the bullshit we live in, if you don't go beneath it and see where the words came from, where the concepts came from. How did these organizations and institutions, where did they arrive here in America? How did we get to be so damn stupid? How did we get to be so locked in by law and overrun by the military-industrial complex? How did this all happen? Where did we get these idea that God is going to save you and that when you die you can go to heaven, but today in America your life is hell, but don't worry about it, you'll be dead soon and boy, it'll be wonderful because you'll go into paradise. No, I think it's about time the human race wakes up and finds out we've been had. And why? Because we allowed it to happen. There's none so blind as those who choose not to see. And this is what's happened to this country. It's called democracy. No, democracy is 35 white guys hanging one black. That's a democracy, 35 to 1. And so once you understand democracy is nothing more than a polite term for Marxist-Leninist communism. When you collect everybody up together and everybody's thinking the same thing, well, when everybody's thinking the same thing, that means nobody's thinking at all. This is why you have all over America and all over the world unions, painters union, carpenters union, the plasterers union. You have the Soviet Union. Wake up. You need to understand that union is a term that is used in collectivism, in Marxist-Leninist Soviet communism, and that's why today America is so far gone, because in the Marxist-Leninist philosophy, it has nothing to do with constitutions or law. Under the Marxist-Leninist American system that we live under, it's very simple. We are a democracy now, not a republic. And in a democracy, it's a gang rule. 35 whites will hang one black. And you got something to say about that? You don't like that? That's democracy. We all voted. So there's a big difference between democracy and communism, Marxist-Leninist totalitarian fascism, or a republic, which is based on laws that protect everyone. And so today our situation is critical because, as you said, and I think it's true, humans could extricate ourselves out from under this mess. We could get out from under this. But we are so profoundly ignorant and ill-informed and unread as to what the words mean and how government works and what the terms mean and the concepts. People have no idea in the world how America works. And so how in the world are you going to protect your country or protect your family when you don't even know what the hell's going on? Haven't even got the famous idea from one day to the next what you're doing, much less your government, much less the people who own your country. And, you know, it's just amazing to me. And I've got to a point at 77 years old. I don't care. I've tried for 50 years to be Mr. Nice Guy and try and help people to wake up and do the best I can without offending anybody. But at this point, I don't care who I offend. You might as well know the truth. We have been misled by our so-called leaders, misleaders. Mm-hmm. It's a secret society of profoundly criminal minds. When we talk about organized crime, and we're thinking, when we hear the word organized crime, you're thinking about mafia, the Medellin cartels, the organized criminal element, which are deadly. Those people will kill you at a drop of a hat. They're deadly. They have no respect for law, for humanity, for children, nothing. And so this is organized crime, and it's frightening. I mean, the law enforcement has to get bigger and better guns and tanks just to keep things quiet enough so we can live. So when you see organized crime, you have no idea in the world your government is the biggest organized criminal syndicate the world has ever imagined. Anytime a government can go anywhere in the world and do any damn thing it pleases, anytime it wants, and can put you into prison, throw you into jail, take everything you own, and throw you into prison or kill you anytime they want, you better wake up. The human race is in trouble.
Well, right. Now, I'm going to agree with a whole lot of what you just said. I'm going to disagree with one thing, though. It's not just America. I think this is a worldwide phenomena. And why? Because you're exactly correct. You know what the big difference is between your street gangs and, the guys that wear the red and blue ties, coincidentally, just like the Bloods and Crips wore red and blue on the streets killing each other. These guys don't kill each other. That's one difference. The other difference is that governments have much higher body counts than street gangs do. That's the truth of it. They're actually better at it. Okay, better than any Italian syndicate, better than any Russian syndicate, any of the Japanese, the Yakuza, the Triads, any of these people you could reference. The Israeli gangsters, and every ethnicity has them, one way or another. But fact is that the guys that we're talking about when we talk about the street level gangsters, they have better suits, and they have lower body counts. Bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, even the red and blue color to me is an obvious smack in the face telling you that this is gangland culture on a mass scale. That's exactly what these governments are operating under at this point, and not just in the United States. It's everywhere. It looks a little different.
I understand that.
Right?
I understand. You're right. It is everywhere.
I know you do. I'm making that point more for the listener. Yeah. Jordan, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just saying for the listener.
But I was going to say, I totally agree with you. It is everywhere. All this stuff, everything happening here. It's just America is so smart. We get there first. So all the corruption, stupidity, violence, all the incredible treason, whatever it is that's going on out there in the world, we do it first. Because we're on the cutting edge.
But that's why they vaccinate us more than anybody else. That's why they chemtrail us more than anybody else. That's why they drug us more than anybody else. Because actually, we're the ones that have a couple of glitches in the system where there could be a problem. For these guys really cowing the entire nation at once, there could be an issue if they don't keep us dumb enough, long enough, and distracted enough. So we have to be the primary focus with all the weapons, don't we?
Yeah, well, again, I think the single biggest problem we face, and I understand where it came from, and I understand what needs to happen to fix it, but the biggest problem America faces is the fact that we do not understand the conceptual ideas under which we live. We are told that we are a democracy, and all the underworld, secret society, child killing, murderous, filthy degenerates that we call politicians, they're all on the take. They've all got dark stuff that they're into, and they're being blackmailed to go along to get along, or we'll blow the whistle on what you're really doing. And so they are pushing the idea of democracy. A democracy is the worst form of government the world has ever come up with. Look at any time there's a riot in the streets where people are turning over cars and blowing out windows and killing and burning businesses, we call it a demonstration. Because the word demo in Greek means a mob rule. And there is it's a very bad idea to have the mob that's drunk with guns and out there with their music and the football games, and they're turning over cars and raping and pillaging and burning businesses. That's a demonstration, coming from the word democratic. So it's the people's rule. It's the people ruling. Well, my God, America under a democracy is like a little town in Oklahoma that has 250 to 300 old folks retirement community, and Hell's Angels with all 460 of them pulling in, all drinking with guns and violence, and they pull in all 460 of them and take over that little town. That's where we are in America today. The most vicious animals on the damn planet have taken over our country. And we know better than to say anything because they will kill you. In America, you can die quickly if you open your mouth, and if you happen, unfortunately, to know something you're not supposed to know, you're a dead man walking. And so today, nobody is going to fight the system because the very few people who did are murdered. They're found in the alleys, committed suicide by shooting themselves in the head 3 times. And so everybody has finally understood the way the mob works. It's called democracy. You mess with this power and we'll kill you.
Well,
and so that's where we are in America today. One of the filthiest and dirtiest operations on the planet Earth. And the people, supposedly Christian people, the Jewish people, nobody is doing a damn thing, period.
Well, see,
that's
now,
my view.
No, and I hear you. Believe me, I want to ask you about something I've never asked you about before, actually, because when you talk about those that speak up and try to speak the right language to try and tell people, look, we can take these things back. We can actually have our dignity. Okay, we can have our representative republic work for us, all of that. When these people try and do it, a time period emerges in my mind, one that I've spent a lot of time studying, and that is the 1960s, especially between 1963 and 1968.
Yeah.
Okay? And here's why. Of course, John F. Kennedy, say what you will about him. Yes, he was a politician. Okay, he was a rich guy, whatever. But he made statements that were very frightening to the powers that be regarding the elimination of war in general and the need for cooperation among nations as opposed to the profitable, the profitable military-industrial complex war in general. And Bobby Kennedy, the same thing. Martin Luther King Jr., who you mentioned earlier, all the same. And what's fascinating to me, and I include Malcolm X in there as well, he had an angrier tone to him, but honestly, I have a similar respect for Malcolm X, who made statements like violence in self-defense is not violence, it is self-defense. Okay? And this to me is reasonable. Is reasonable action, okay, is reasonable understanding. And I'm not even saying that I agree entirely with Dr. King's nonviolent prescriptions.
No, but if you're educated enough in the audience, those who are evolved enough to educational and spiritually involved enough to talk about adult subjects knows what you mean. I mean, obviously, we're not talking about everything these people said was great, but the truth said by anyone is still the truth. And I totally agree with you.
Well, that's right. But see, at that time, those were public executions, in my estimation, meant to make the point that if you stick your head up against the momentum built in the system, which is the beast, in my estimation, this is what will happen to you. And it absolutely shut down. Yeah, well, it's what you said on an individual level, and we see people still being killed today who speak up and say something dangerous. But what I'm saying is that was a profound time period where it was complete lawlessness, I think, among these people, and it has not gotten any better ever after. So truthfully, in the time period which I lived, I was born in 1972. In the time period which I have lived, we have seen nothing but a degeneration of people's willingness, because you said earlier in this discussion, people don't want the truth, they want their truth, but they only really want their truth when it's comfortable and convenient. Just like we talked about Malcolm X, and you can decipher a lot of what he had to say, and people disagree with me. I've talked about the Black Panthers the same way on this show and tried to explain to people, if you examine the true root of where those people were going and what they were actually doing, you would understand that if you're dissatisfied with the system as it is, you would agree with them a hell of a lot more than you would with the governments that exist and the people that sought out to destroy and assassinate them as well. Okay? And
totally
a lot of people don't want to hear it. But But I want your viewpoint on that time period, because that to me seemed to change the game here. It wasn't quiet any longer, and I think it's like I said, it's ever after gotten even more. Excuse me, here comes that root word again, demonic in my estimation, in its behavior, the overall system. Ever since then, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's all become very obvious to. When you ask me what I think about such things, my first thought is that if you are educated enough, if you've actually gone to school and learned how to read and are intellectually honest, which most people aren't, but if you're intellectually honest and you're intelligent, you've got somewhat of an education, you already know what we're talking about is true. I don't have to, the truth has never been needed to be validated by stupidity. The truth is the truth, and it's in your face, and you can't deny it. And so I like what Dick Gregory said. The truth does not need to be validated by ignorance and stupidity. So I don't need to say that it's true. Everybody who's educated enough to know how adult life works knows that what you're saying is true. We all know it, but there's very few people willing to stand up and actually do something. Why? Well, because they're going to be killed. They're going to be assassinated. And so I know how this world works. There's so many ways in which we have been misled. And, from Rome, in the ancient Roman days, the original days of the founding of the Roman Empire, Rome was referred to as a republic. Not a democracy, a republic.
Right.
And history will tell you, historians have noted for many, many years, we have known that a democracy is the worst possible form of government you can have. Because a democracy comes from the idea of a demo. A demo is a crowd in the street. And a demonstration is when they start rioting. It's called a demonstration, because it's a democratic thing to do. And this is why people like Obama and all the other people who get into office in the democratic system means that when you are elected president by the people, that means you can do any damn thing you please, period. Why? Because the people are behind you. You can do anything you want. You're not bound by laws or constitutions and all that bullshit. You're not under those kind of restraints. You're God. Why? Because people voted for you. And so there's a difference between a republic in which all people are abiding by the law and nobody's above the law. And so in America today, we are, in point of fact, I'm intellectually honest enough to tell you the truth. Because I started this truth movement back 56 years ago. I started talking around Hollywood about the corruption and all the stuff going on with the Knights Templars and the Federal Reserve and all the other Illuminati stuff. In 1967, I was talking about it, proselytizing the idea all over the country. So I know what I'm talking about. And the idea is that today, America is the most lawless country that's in existence on the earth today. We are the most lawless people on the earth today, in my humble opinion. And the reason why I say that, because in the book of Revelation in the Bible, it talks about a time they refer to as the last days in which something will come upon the earth, and it was referred to in the Bible as the man of lawlessness. This is a very, very important point that so many people have missed. The Bible talks in the book of Revelation about the rise in the last days of the man of lawlessness, meaning that there would come a time when mankind would be totally lawless. And that's where we are today. And how did we get here? Because of America and the democracy. We are a lawless country and a lawless people. And so I used to think to myself, but I would go to law libraries and study all the time, and all the big law libraries in Los Angeles, etc. And I used to think to myself, how could we be a lawless country when there is nothing but laws? We got millions of laws, but even the lawyers don't even know what they are. They got to go look them up. There's so many laws. So how in the world are we a lawless country? We are a lawless country now because there is no written law. That's what I'm trying to tell you. In America, there is no such a thing as a chiseled in stone absolute law. There is only whatever the powers who are in power today say the law is. But tomorrow or next Wednesday, they may say, well, you know what, the law has changed. Why? Because I changed it. And so when I change it, that means the law has changed. Now, what are you going to do about it? And so I've changed the law now, so now we got a new law. And the new law says that, no, retroactively, you have to pay this and that from something you did 10 years ago. You say, well, that's not the law. No, it is the law. Why? Because I said so. So therefore, the law in America is total lawlessness, like the Bible prophesied. There is no law. There is only whatever the powers that be say it is today. And if they say it's something different tomorrow, then you can be sure that in 3 weeks from now it will be a totally different. And so there's nothing nailed down or chiseled in stone, which is the absolute law. There ain't no absolute law in America. There's only what Obama says it is. Any damn time he pleases, he can say what it is, and that's what it is. And then 3 weeks later, he can say something's totally different, and that's what the law is. So once you understand, we are an organized criminal syndicate which is filled with bloodshed, violence, filth, debauchery, demonic depravity. My Lord and my God, we are living in the last days. That's my view.
Well, there you go. Now, some people might be a little confused because they're not really hearing everything you're saying. I want to make a couple of things very clear because we're going to come to the end of this hour real quick, and I want to make a couple of things clear. At the beginning, you mentioned, the false Christian constructs that are out there. What you're talking about is the organized religion.
Yeah.
That is these 501c3 organizations that, yes, indeed, sometimes they do some good work, but there is a lot of nefarious things connected to them. There is a lot of misleading built into the direction which is presented there. Okay? So I say this all the time. I don't call myself a Christian at all, but I do not deny the truth in the religion if it is not in this organized context. There is a great deal of truth in the Bible. There is a great deal to be decoded.
Right? Let me comment on that. I totally am exactly the same way. I am totally convinced that the words which are attributed to the one called Jesus in the Bible, the words that are attributed to this one called Jesus, are absolutely the most divinely inspired, brilliant, and beautiful concepts ever to be given to us as humans. But I am also well aware that the most important and most powerful presence in America that could do good, that could do what is needed to straighten this country out, is the church. But today we don't have Christianity. Today we have churchianity. It has nothing whatsoever to do. And let me tell you, I know what I'm talking about because I've been looking at theology for over 65 years. The Christianity in its very, very early stage in the Roman Empire bears no resemblance whatsoever, period, to what is today taught in churches. The Christianity today is about as foreign from what it was originally taught as you can possibly get. And yet today, this whole country is overrun with goofballs, airheads, dim-witted morons and big-time criminals who dance around on stages and throw their coats and spit on people and fall all over the stage and act like a damn fool and then talk to the American people as if they were 3-year-olds and make hundreds of millions of dollars and fly around in jets with their boyfriends. I am just disgusted with this whole entire civilization that I happen by chance to be caught up in, because I've seen this kind of stuff coming for many years. Christianity could have done something. It was big enough and powerful enough and had enough people behind it to do something. But out of Christianity, if you're intellectually honest, out of Christianity has come 2 major world wars among Christian countries, all of the violence, bloodshed, gang wars, drive-by killings, dope and narcotics industry, the military-industrial complex, the changing of sex of humans, boys to be girls and girls to be boys, and all kinds of nefarious demonic depravity that is destroying the very foundation of human society, all happen in Christian countries. So by their fruits you shall know them. And so
that's absolutely true.
As far as I'm concerned, the fruitage of Christianity today.
WallStreetWindow.com. Gold, silver, the stock market. WallStreetWindow.com. The brilliant author of The War State brings you exclusive reports about the big changes upcoming in the markets. WallStreetWindow.com.
Perhaps you're invested deeply.
Perhaps you're not in deep enough. Maybe you're thinking about getting started. WallStreetWindow.com. Michael Swanson, the brilliant author of The War State, understood these trends professionally for many years, and now he gives you the benefit of his knowledge. WallStreetWindow.com. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now.
This breaking news just in. The Ocelli Effect, hosted by Chuck Ocelli, is quite simply the alternative's alternative, decoding both mainstream and alternative information with honest analysis of both historical and current events. Mr. Ocelli is the most underrated voice in all media. For more details, go to Ocelli.com, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern.
You're listening to Ocelli.com Radio Network, the alternative's alternative and home of the Ocelli Effect.
Airstrike, ISIS personnel, 30 mid-level, or what they describe as mid-level field commanders. Now, I would say that raises a little bit of a red flag to move around in large groups or to meet in congregation in large groups. So that does sound a little strange, to be honest. And Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi himself was also attending this meeting. They say that they're now looking into trying to confirm that. Of course, it's very difficult to confirm that. How do you confirm that without some kind of DNA evidence? Is there even a DNA sample of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi out there? Would they be able to recover the body if it really was 330 people killed in a single strike? And I should say that is a very large amount of people to be killed in a single strike. Certainly a lot of questions yet to be answered here.
What's the difference between Bush and Manson?
If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier. Just so long as I'm the dictator.
I said, if you're going to do something, leave something with you.
That's the assessment that I made from the intelligence?
Just like I would tell you, if you're going to do something, do it well. And leave something with you. Leave a sign to let the world know that you were there.
They can attack us there. My answer is bring them on.
I might have been so stoned I don't remember.
Frankly, I'll be honest with you, I don't have any idea
No, I don't think the drugs have hurt me. If I overdone it, I think it would.
I'm the person who gets to decide, not you.
I'm not very wise to many things.
My blood wasn't boiling.
If I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing.
Either you take care of him or we will.
See, if I'm going to explain it to you, it's not going to be that easy. So you're going to have to bear with me.
I mean, I'm sick when I think about the death.
You got a stone wall there. Won't you take it down a little bit?
It's gut-wrenching.
It's a comedy. It's a comedy tragedy opera that was played in the early morning.
Some citizens are fearful of stepping up.
If you're going to go to war and you're fighting your enemy and you kill him when he's afraid, you know, it's a bad omen. It's bad.
They don't protect us from killers.
When you go to war against an enemy, you go to war for God and country, and you give your life to that cause. They were going out to fight the war.
They hurt us again. They want to hurt us again.
There's no doubt about that, and I can handle that also. I've been handling, ain't I?
Destroyed lives and put them in mass graves and have torture rooms.
Now you do what I say.
You continue to take life, destroy life.
It's good. It teaches you things.
I'm a better person than you are.
I'm telling you. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you.
Can you tell? Can you tell? Can you tell? Can you tell?
Okay, can we get quiet, please? Everybody sit down. Young man in the front row, spit that gum out. Thank you. Cherry flavor. And now the moment we've been waiting for. The man whom we all know and have grown to love over the years. Who won the Nobel Peace Prize for making the largest flavored Jell-O shooter that the world has ever seen. And a great man of science who proved to us once and for all that no matter how much cherry-flavored Jell-O you put in your swimming pool, you still can't walk on water. I give to you, Chuck O'Kelly!
The second hour of the O'Celli Effect begins here on multiple platforms and networks, including O'Celli.com. I hope. We've had a couple of glitches, but, you know, I do know that we're getting out via autonomous media. I know we're getting out via other networks, and we do appreciate them for joining us this evening. It is a Friar's Day, and yes, I point that out once again, but also I wish to thank everybody who has been patient with us throughout the entire process, and we will continue to make upgrades and changes to the system as we move forward. It's really going well in my estimation. You know, a couple of glitches here and there, it happens. Anyway, do appreciate you no matter how you're encountering the show via your Fondle Slab of choice, your applicable application later on down the stream via your podcatchers. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have one of the most prolific and profound speakers that I can possibly somehow trick into coming on the show. Jordan Maxwell is with me, and we are discussing the root causes and the root ugliness, really, that is across the planet. Again, we at all times have the choice to get up and do something about all of this. However, en masse, it seems as though that is not the case. Why? Well, one of the reasons is the idea that democracy, which I know it sounds like a friendly term because we were taught it's a friendly term, but I want people to consider this and have Jordan comment on it. Democracy also means that we know, first of all, that not everyone is of the brightest intellectually cast, let's just say, in life. They're just not born bright, a lot of them. A lot of people are not born of great character. A lot of people are not raised of great character. A lot of people are not taught great character or intellectual strength or integrity or honesty. And if you allow democracy to be the thing that you want to embrace, that means that the idiots among us actually would control a lot more than the smartest among us. To have equal protection under law, to have equal protection under every situation is something that should be achievable. There is no reason why inequality that is not already naturally born with us, or that is not already naturally part of our own, conduct. In other words, the conduct of your character should outweigh everything else. That which you behave like should be the thing by which you are measured, and all of that. If that is the measuring stick in society, well, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. Democracy, though, would allow the fact that there's a lot of people who are very ignorant, some are very stupid, some are very morally bankrupt. A lot of them would wield a lot more power if everyone in the mob gets to behave as a mob. So mob rule's not a good thing. And I think people need to consider that when they want to embrace a term like democracy. Jordan, what do you think?
Well, I said a long time ago that unfortunately the majority of the American people remind me of old Christmas tree lights. Half of them don't work and the rest are not that bright. As far as I'm concerned, that's why America is now the most powerful country existed on the earth, the wealthiest, most incredible government and country, to where all the peoples of the world were fighting to come here to be a part of the American system of justice and opportunity, etc. And people were standing in line, waiting to come and paying money to be here. Today, they're standing in line, waiting to get the hell out of here. Well, the reason why is because the whole entire superstructure of America has now become so corroded and so corrupted and so filled with criminality that there is virtually no hope for this society. And don't bother to go praying to God, because God's not coming to help anybody. You got yourself into this mess, you could get yourself out. And so I understand why the people are in the shape they're in today is because of ignorance, ill-informed, unread ignorance. And that's why I say that there is no hope, because the people have no power, because knowledge is power and they have no knowledge. And let me give you a few classic examples. I'll show you how your money works. No one's ever, today, nobody has ever heard this, but it's so simple. Suppose you were a painting contractor and I wanted my office painted. So I called you, you come over to my office and you look at it and measure it, and then you give me an estimate. And you say, I can paint your office for $100. Okay, so when you're through with the job, this is the way it works in commerce. When you're through with the job, you come and give me a bill. And the bill is itemized, telling me what I owe and how much. And so the bill is for $100. Now, the way it works in America is I pull out of my wallet and I hand you a $100 bill, and you are paid. You're happy. You got $100. You wanted $100, and I paid you $100. But I didn't pay you anything. Period. End of sentence. I didn't pay you anything. You gave me a bill for $100. I gave you a $100 bill. If you had given me a bill for $20, I'd give you a $20 bill. Get it? If you had given me a bill for $10, I'd give you a $10 bill. What is happening in America with money is an exchange based on credit. It is not paying for anything. That's why today you cannot pay a bill. The way the law actually reads, if you bother to read the way the law was set up in commerce, you cannot in America pay a bill. You can discharge a debt, but you cannot pay a bill. So the reason why you can't pay a bill, because you've never had any money to pay a bill. What you're doing is discharging the debt. As I said, you gave me a bill for $100. I gave you a bill for $100. Now you owe me $100 because it's a bank note. Read it. It says Federal Reserve Bank Note. And so you now owe me. I'm the bank in your life. I'm the bank. You owe me $100. But that's okay because I owe you $100. So all we need to do is just make sure we keep a record of how many times you owe me as opposed to how many times I owed you. That's what we call records, to record how many times I discharged your bill. I didn't pay you anything. And therefore, since no one has ever paid for anything, nobody in America owns anything. I don't care if you bought a new car cash. You don't own it. You have a law, what is called a financial interest in the car. You have a financial interest in the car in that you paid the $30,000 up front for the car. So if I want the car and you want to sell it to me, then I have to pay you something for your interest in it. But I am not paying you to give me the car. You're not giving me anything. You're selling it to me for your financial interest. Because the bottom line on this is that you don't own the car. That's why you have to register the car each year with the government, because the government started off owning it. When you bought it, it owned it. And when you sell it, they own it. You know, and all you need to do is remember that on all governmental vehicles, fire department, fire trucks, police cars, dump trucks, I don't care what it is. If it's owned by government, city, county, state, whatever, if it's owned by some government and doing something for the government, it's a government-owned vehicle. And on every single government vehicle, no matter what it is, you will always see near the bottom, on the side of the vehicle, on the front, or by the license in the back, if it's a government vehicle, you will always see the words "for official use only." Right. That means it is an officially owned by the government, the county, or the state, or the city, but whatever it is, it's for official use only. And therefore, it's not personal. You don't own it. The government owns it, all right? When you go and get a new car and then you have to register the car each year, you pay a certain amount of money and get a little tag. And you go take the sticky thing off the back of the tag and you stick it on the license. But what you don't know is that you don't look at that little sticky thing that you're sticking on the license, because the damn thing says right in front of you, "for official use only," which means you now have put onto your car "for official use only," which now means the federal government, the state, the county, the city owns your vehicle. For official use only means government owns it, not you. Now, if you bought your car, your boat, your plane, your house, or whatever it is you're buying, if you have bought it with what is called a allodial title, spell A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Look it up in a law dictionary. Allodial. Allodial title means you own it. God can't touch it. No one can touch it. You own it. So it's allodial, A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L, allodial title. But you don't have nothing in this world an allodial title. You just got a regular piece of paper that says you have a financial interest in the house, in the car, in the boat. But you don't own it. Unless you have a allodial title, you don't own nothing. But how many people know about allodial titles? Well, virtually nobody, except the lawyers, except the judges, the federal judges, except the international bankers. They know what allodial means, and they're scared to death of that.
Well, you know, that brings up an interesting point, because do you own it, or does the fiction that allegedly has your name own it, right? So here we go. truthfully, the whole system is designed so that there is no real attachment to the actual human being. And I don't know, maybe I'm ignorant on the subject, but it seems as though no matter what you do, even with a title like that, you as an individual are not meant to own anything anyway, because you were abandoned at sea, effectively, and by the age of 7, you are now subject to salvage laws, if that's not incorrect. I don't know.
That's right.
It gets very confusing, doesn't it? Because I don't know. It appears to me in my consciousness that I am a living man. I am not the corporate fiction that they put in all capital letters, which, by the way, nothing in the English language, to my understanding, is spelled in all capital letters. So, therefore, simply by the way it is written, it is a fallacy on itself. Now, putting all that together, it's actually literally impossible for you or me or anyone who understands that they are a living man or woman out there to own anything, including their own corporate fiction.
That's right, including your own child. You don't own that child.
Oh, no.
You had to get a marriage license. And when you get a license, that means it's a permit to do something. Without that permit would have been unlawful. And so if you're going to do something that's unlawful, but you ask permission, and if you're going to want your dad's car for your date, you don't just get out and go out and get in the car and drive off. You ask permission. And if he says no, then you walk. And so, but if he says yes, what he has done is he has given you a license to use the car. Why? Because he gave you permission. And so that's why you have something called the Statue of Liberty. To enter into America, you see the Statue of Liberty. It's not the Statue of Freedom. It's the Statue of Liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port. He asks the captain if he could go out and have a few drinks at the bar, and if the captain says no, then you ain't going nowhere. But if he says yes, then you have what the Navy calls liberty. You have the liberty till 12 midnight, and you better be back before 12. So it's not, you don't have any freedom. The captain has given you liberty, and God help your ass if you're not back by the time, because you're going into jail.
Right.
So therefore, a statue of liberty means a statue to ask permission of your masters. It's not the statue of freedom. You don't have any freedom. You need to pay the taxes, pay the fines, get the permit, ask permission, and don't paint anything any color you want, and don't build anything you want. You ask permission. Go to the city and get the council and all the other corrupt judges and get all those people to ask permission. Can I build a room onto my house? Can I paint it green if I want? No. Why? Because you don't own it. It's really an incredible story of betrayal of the human family, and besides, the whole concept of government is nothing more than a foisted lie on us.
Well, right.
So,
and look, let me make a quick point here. I mean, I feel bad when people talk about owning their children. I don't believe I need to own them, because I don't believe a human being should be owned by anyone. However, but that's the thing. Some people are certain, no, I own my children. I don't want to own another human being. I don't appreciate slavery, okay, for any purpose. However, I do believe it is something that is part of our human experience, that we have that right granted to us by virtue of our creation to guide our children in their developmental years, right, as we see fit. And
I agree.
That has been robbed from us directly, and it's done with our complicity, because we report their birth. We give their rights over to the state right away by virtue of the birth certificate.
That's right.
And I don't know, and the serial number is applied and everything all at once.
Look, there's a big story here. There's a big story here. It's called commerce. Commerce is business, period. But look up the word commerce in a law dictionary. Go to the library and get a law dictionary and look up the word commerce. You will see that commerce is sex. That's what it says in a law dictionary. Sex is commerce. It's providing a service. You know, you pay and you get what you're paying for. So sex is by law called commerce, and so it's a business, supply and demand kind of thing. Right. And so when you understand that commerce is nothing more than sex, it all has to do, it's a very big story, and I've been preaching this for many years, but nobody seems to be listening. There's a handful of people out there who are astute enough to pick up on what I've been talking about for 40 years or 50 years and have really done some magnificent research on the subject. But all of this, when you talk about business and commerce, you don't understand that your flesh and blood self is considered by international governments as a business. You are referred to in law as a corporation. This is why when you die, you are a corpse, because you are a corporation. You are a corporation. And why and how does that work that you're a corporation? You are a company, a corporation. And if you're messing around with some woman and thinking about getting married, she's a corporation. So Ford Motor Company is now messing around with General Motors. And the two of them are thinking about taking care of some private business. And, well, you can do all the business you want as corporations as long as you get a license. As long as you go before the owners who owns her and who owns you, somebody owns you and they own her. And so, you know, it's like two different children and two different families. Yeah, well, the two children can go out and do whatever they want as long as the parents know about it and they allow it. And so today, if you're going to get married, you better get a license. And so when you get a license, that means now the state is now part of what you are doing. Let me give you an example.
Let me provide you with a quick example here in case somebody's saying, well, Jordan is, you know, he's speaking kind of above our heads for a moment. I'll tell you this from my divorce proceedings. I know this for a fact. Your children are, because you know how Jordan just said Ford Motor Company is messing with whichever motor company. Doesn't matter. Just imagine a manufacturing entity is deciding to have a merger or a union with another manufacturing entity, okay? When you engage in that union and that merger, which we call marriage, and you get a license to do so, your children are created by virtue of that particular financial and corporate agreement. So guess what they are called in a technical legal sense? Products of the marriage. I'm not kidding. Look for the phrase. You'll find it. I know I saw it in black and white in my divorce proceeding, and I remember being struck by it saying, these are children. These are not products. But, okay,
the government will tell you, oh, no, they're products, not children.
Right. No, but I'm just saying, I mean, if you can't get a better example, I'm sure you can. But I'm saying from my personal life, I remember looking at that and saying to myself, children are products.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that tell you? Well, gee, again, if Ford and Chrysler or whatever got together and they created the Ford Chrysler X223, whatever it is they want to call it.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
They would call it a product right, of the merger, which is exactly how your children are. So your children are obviously just products and, well, commodities utilized.
Let me give you another example. One night I see you come out of an Italian restaurant at 2:00 in the morning with some girl, some woman, and the next day I tell you in private, I saw you with that woman last night. I know who she is. And she's bad company, son. You better be aware of that. She's bad company. And you say to me, mind your own business. Why? Because you're getting married. She's going to be my partner. Partner, business, company, wake up. Any relationship between man and woman or man and man, whether it's a gay relationship, heterosexual, it makes no difference. It's a business. And incidentally, it ain't none of your business. and who I am sleeping with is none of your business. And who you marry is none of my business. But as long as you understand, it's a business. And if it's a business, then you better have a business license. And this is why if you're going to be an attorney, you have to have a license. Why? Because you're going to make money. It's commerce. You're going to make money. How? By talking, by using the law. You're an attorney. That's how you make your living. How do you make your living? With reading books. You have to be knowledgeable and take a test and be knowledgeable, and therefore you're making money by using books. They're called law books. But the problem is you never thought about this. The law books were written by somebody. And so you're using somebody else's books to make money. Well, if I'm writing a book and you want to make a movie out of it, that's fine as long as you talk to me and my lawyer first. But you don't go out and make money off of my book and make a movie without telling me. And so therefore you don't go out and practice law without a license. Why? Because the people who wrote the law book are providing you with the book that you make money with. And so you have to pay them to use their book. Why? Because you're making a lot of money using their book. So you have to have a license. And so you pay the license to the publishers of the book and the people who wrote the book. So understand what a license is. And that's why you've got a license to get married. And if you're going to ride around in a car, you got to have a driver's license. You know, there's a big difference. You know, if you get a brand new car, if you get a brand new car or a truck or motorcycle or whatever, it's brand new, in the car you're going to have something called an owner's manual. And so that owner's manual is going to have all the information about that vehicle, what you can do, when to change your oil. All the details are in the owner's manual. You need to keep this in mind so that when you drive off the lot in the new car you just bought, you are the owner of a vehicle. But if you're using that car to make money, if you're using that truck to make money, now you're talking about business. You bought the car because you're going to be a cab driver. You bought the truck because you're going to work for a trucking company. So now you're going to use those wheels not for yourself, but for making money. Now you bring in the internal revenue. Now you're bringing in the law, because now you're going to use those wheels that you just bought for business, not for personal use. You are the owner of a vehicle. But if you're going to use those wheels to make money and do business, then you're not called an operator. By law and commerce, you are referred to as a driver. You're a bus driver, a cab driver, a truck driver. Driver in law means you are using wheels to make money. And if you're using wheels to make money, that's commerce, that's business. You better check with government and get a license. So that's why today, if you're going to get in your car, you got to have a driver's license. Why? Because it's considered when you get in your car that you are a maritime admiralty product. On the International Maritime Admiralty Law, you are a product. And therefore, the product is out making money. And so, therefore, you have to have a driver's license. You're no longer an operator of a motorized vehicle. All I'm saying is that the entire world you live in bears no resemblance whatsoever to anything you think is going on. Nothing operates the way you think it does. Nothing.
And the only political
examples of that.
Oh, yeah. And the only political statement in America that ever needs to be made regarding, if we don't look at the executive branch, which, again, executive is interesting terminology, but It strikes me that, now this is going to sound like a joke, but I'm not kidding. It strikes me that when you're engaged in a sexual act, directly engaged in the actual sexual act, one might refer to it as being in sexual congress.
It is. That's what it's called in the dictionary.
Yeah, that would be the proper term for it. And what's interesting to me is it's a big surprise when you're getting screwed by Congress. I always find that interesting, but it's not. It's not a surprise because they're telling you. They've actually told you a lot of things in the language. It's just that we have been taught that these words have different meanings than what they were actually intended.
Of course, but you should say to the audience, go look up the word in a dictionary, the word Congress. Go look it up. I don't write the dictionary. I'm just telling you, go look up the word Congress. And you will see that the word Congress in a dictionary, period, means sex. Get it?
Yeah.
That's what it means. So when you're bragging to everybody about how we have a Congress, you know what Congress means? Yeah, so it's an extraordinary story, as I said, of people using terms and words and phrases that they have no idea in the world where it came from, what it means. And it's very, very disheartening to me as an old man at 77 years old, especially after 56 years of trying to tell people daily in and out and being mocked and laughed at and ridiculed and called every name you can think of because people who are not fit to tie my shoes or people who are bad-mouthing me, calling me names. I've spent 56 years doing what I do, while most people who are calling me names have not spent 56 minutes. I was doing this before most of the audience was born.
Definitely
I forgot
before I was
about
born,
this world and how it works, and most people are ever going to be privileged to even hear. So I'm trying, as I have been trying for so many years, I have been trying to wake people up to what's going on. But I realize as long as their bellies are full, the beer is cold, and they got plenty to eat, and they got bread in circuses like in Rome, as long as they got the ball game and their bellies are full, they got the cold beer, they got TV, and they're happy, and they're not sleeping under a bridge and starving like their fellow man is. Well, who the hell cares about the fellow man? Let him starve. No, there are women and children living under bridges, sleeping behind trash cans in America today, while this country is spending billions and hundreds of billions and giving away trillions of dollars to international bankers, while women and children are sleeping in trash cans. What in the hell is this Western civilization really all about? Well, I got a news for you. You have no idea in the world how this world really works. And this is what I've been trying to do for so many years, is to awaken the human consciousness to the fact that you've been had. You've been lied to and deceived from day one. Let me give you an example. You know, our whole system is based on water, and I've talked about this so many times. But, you know, all ships, I don't know if you know this or not, but all ships, rocket ships, sailing ships, I don't care what kind of ship it is, all ships are referred to in law as female. This is why captains will always tell you, she's a good ship, and she's very seaworthy, and she's been through a lot with me, and she's this, and she's that. Why she? Because ships are considered female.
Well, they're vessels, just like the female is a vessel. It is meant to carry, and that's part of the obvious thing in the language right away. All vessels are referred to as female because they are likened to the female carrying a passenger like a child. Same thing. Yeah, go ahead.
She delivers a product. And so when you have a contract, you sign a contract, you have a license now. So the male in the contract, he does what you call manufactures. And the woman is in labor. She's in labor producing the product that her husband manufactured. And so you understand the way the system works. And I've tried to tell people for years, you don't know how the world works. You don't know what the words mean. You don't know what the laws are. You don't understand commerce. You have no idea where religions come from. You've got no idea where the word God comes from. It's simply dog spelled backwards. Wake up. The whole entire superstructure of Western civilization is a bunch of bull and crap and lies and deception. And unless and until the people wake up and educate themselves, is not going to get any better. It just gets worse because the criminals are now in power in our country. Why do you think our whole judicial system in America is called, quote, a criminal justice system, end quote? It's not an American justice system or the people's justice system. It's criminal justice system, implying the criminals are dispensing the justice.
Which they are.
Yeah, that's why you call it a criminal justice system. So as far as I'm concerned, I've been trying to awaken people for years. I should say this right now, too, that I have a website. And if you are, it doesn't matter to me, but if you're intellectually astute enough, if you're intellectually and spiritually evolved enough, and maybe you're not, but if you are intellectually and spiritually evolved enough to handle the real truth, then why don't you go to my website, which is very simple, JordanMaxwellShow.com. Not, don't make the mistake, it's not the, T-H-E, the Jordan Maxwell Show. No. Just JordanMaxwellShow.com. And you will see on my website, JordanMaxwellShow.com, you will see that I have 2 new features there that you need to know about. One is I have 2 new videos. One is called Cosmocrats. Cosmocrats is a video I produced which is talking about the hidden rulers of this world. They're not who you think they are. The people who actually run the earth today are not people you've ever heard of, you don't know anything about, and you have no idea what they're doing. So I thought it sounded like a clever idea. Why don't I tell the world who's really behind all of this crap, because I'm the one that's been looking at it for 56 years, and it's about time somebody told you. So that's my new video. It's called Cosmocrats, which is actually 2 Greek words. Cosmo in Greek means world, like cosmocrat or cosmology or cosmonauts. Cosmos means world, and krat means ruler, like democrat, plutocrat. So cosmocrat simply means world rulers. So I've got a new video on the real, legitimate, de jure, real world rulers and who they really are. And there's a second video which is accompanying that one called exposing, or can't remember the word exactly, exposing ancient mystery. And it's a very, very serious video on a very important and powerful symbol that has been used for thousands of years by different civilizations that America uses today, England uses today, the communists used it, Nazis used it. All over the world, governments use the same symbol, and it means the same thing. But most people have never heard of it and have no idea in the world what it means and where it comes from and how it connects to the cosmocrats, the world rulers. So these 2 videos I consider and feel are very important symbols. Who's running this planet and how are they doing it? Has nothing to do with anything you've ever heard. So if you want to get my 2 videos, go to Jordan Maxwell Show and order the 2 videos right there on the home page. And incidentally, while I'm on that subject of my home page, there's also, along with that, a new website called Research Website. So if you go to Jordan Maxwell Show, you will see a new website called the Jordan Maxwell Research Society. you can join that. Click on it and you can join it. It costs a few dollars for a lifetime subscription. But on that new website, I am downloading, or I should say uploading, all of my research material on all the subjects that I've talked about over the years, from government to religion to finance to theology to religion. I mean, all the different subjects. I've got audio, videos, documents, pictures. It's just an incredible array of my work from over the years. It's fairly new, so it's very big right now, but it's getting a lot bigger yet, because I have thousands of more articles to go on. I've been doing this for a long time. So if you'd like to avail yourself of real wisdom for a change, then go to Jordan Maxwell Show and join my research society and get my 2 videos. And I want to appreciate and thank you for letting me throw in that little plug for my work.
Well, no, I was definitely going to do it before we got out of here, because I actually want to join the research society, the research website myself, and we will get that done when I'm done here tonight, or maybe later tomorrow, something like that, because I want to get in there and take a look at the work you've done. Of course, Jordan, you can find him in a lot of places, but this is the only site that is Jordan's, all right? A lot of other people have decided to use his name, are selling products under the guise of it being his, and it is not.
Right.
Quite honestly, only Jordan Maxwell Show, all one word, .com, is the only site that is actually Jordan Maxwell's website any longer. And look, this is the kind of thing that goes on, and I know it, but I want to make that point extremely clear. It's a very interesting looking website, by the way, and yes, indeed, there is the link to the videos. There's a link to a bunch of radio shows that you've done, spots where you've been a guest on other shows. I don't know if mine have ever been on there, because I never go look for my own shows, but I know that you and I have done some interesting discussions, but almost everybody has tried to talk to you, has had you on to hear your perspective on these things, and now there's one place, which is JordanMaxwellShow.com. Okay?
Yes. And also remember, do not put the word the, T-H-E, because somebody has already gone out there like normal and want to copy what I do, so they put the Jordan Maxwell Show. And that will take you to somebody else who's using my name. No. If you want me, you do one thing. Not the, T-H-E, but just JordanMaxwellShow.com.
Right.
It's all there.
Right. It certainly is, and I advise people to go there and take a look at the content. I'm not saying everybody needs to join the research website. Maybe that's not your thing, but I do tell you need to go there, take a look at the content, and I guarantee you, even looking over the website from the front page, you'll begin to learn some things. Like I said, there are players there for different discussions that you've done. There's of course the images of the books you've participated in. Many different things Jordan Maxwell has done over the years, and it's really a great privilege to have you on this show. I do appreciate it, and being someone who suffers from health issues constantly as well, I also appreciate the fact that it is a struggle to do that, and to continue to fight the good fight, because you know that this is the right thing to do. You're compelled to do it. It's not like this is the thing you want to expend some of that energy that some days is shorter than others doing, but it's absolutely necessary to confront that which has confounded us and misled us for so long, and that is what Jordan Maxwell does. I have one random question which has come from a few different sources. Seem to want to get your take on this before we end the show. So I don't know how to really posit this question to you. I'll just throw it at you, and I know you'll figure out a way to address it. People want to know in general, what is your view on Luciferianism? Because there is the concept out there, and I'm going to try and capsulize a lot of these things that you guys have said in Skype and in chat and everywhere else. the fact is that we have been given to understand when we begin to study these things that Lucifer may have been the light bringer and all these other things, and this links to the term Illuminati, and is this not the planet of the adversary or Lucifer himself, etc., etc.? Okay, all of that in a nutshell. How is it that people should interpret the discussions and the debates regarding Luciferianism as a concept? It's not devil worship, by the way. That's a different thing. Luciferianism and devil worship are different. And Luciferianism and Satanism are different. They are different things. Luciferianism is a particular, well, it's an ugly subject. But what is your take on that, and how would you sort of, I mean, I know I'm not being fair here, but how would you sort of give us a snapshot of Jordan Maxwell's take on Luciferianism?
Well, first of all, you're dealing now with theology, which is my subject. I feel very secure when I talk about theology and religion, because that's what I have loved all my life, and I've spent so much of my available time researching and studying and reading and finding out about, because I'm fascinated with theology. I'm fascinated with all the strangeness of religions around the world. And so first of all, you need to understand that the word devil is simply putting a D, as in David, a D in front of the word evil, and it becomes devil or devil. God comes from the root word that we get good, G-O-O-D. Take an O out of good becomes God. God is good. Devil is D in front of the word evil. So devil is evil. So these are just words. They're words that we come up with. But they are based on something which is legitimate. There is something out there. I don't know if you can strictly call it devil, but there is something horrible, evil in this world. And it's killing us and strangling us to death today. It's everywhere. But the very word Lucifer actually goes back to the planet Venus. Venus is Lucifer. And as a matter of fact, we understand that Satan, well, that's a different name. Satan is said to be the devil. Well, Satan comes from an old Hebrew word, satan, which means an opposer. Anybody who, if you go to court and you have an opposer, he is a satan. A satan is someone who opposes you and is strictly against what you're doing. And so if you're trying to worship God, or if you're trying to be good and do what you do what is right, then there is a power in this world that is trying to get you to go the opposite way. And so we call it Satan. Satan. No, it says Satan means an opposer, someone who is opposing you in what you want to do. But when you get into Lucifer, actually, according to the Bible, now according to astronomy, which was around before the Bible, the planet Venus was referred to in Rome, the Latin language, as Lucifer. But in the Bible, Lucifer is Jesus. Jesus is Lucifer. He even says that in the book of Revelation. I think it's in Revelation, the last book in the Bible is Revelation, and the last chapter in the last book is Revelation. I think it's 22:16. And in 22:16, if I'm remembering this, the last chapter in the last book of the Bible, it says, Jesus said, I, Jesus, am saying, I am Lucifer. So I don't know how Christianity can handle that, but that's what it says. And I didn't write it, incidentally. I'm just telling you what it says. So the bottom line is that Jesus said, I am Lucifer. So therefore, Jesus is referred to as the light of the world. Jesus is the light of the world. Well, of course, and he's referred to as God's Son. He's God's Son, the light of the world. Of course, the Son is the light of the world. What else lights the world if it isn't the sun? But the idea, going back to ancient Egypt, is that in the early morning hours, like 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning, the priest of Egypt would get up and face the east. And in the early morning east would rise a very beautiful planet, a star, which was very bright. It was called Venus. And Venus was very bright. So it was not the sun, but it told the world that the sun was coming. And so it wasn't God, but it was telling the world.
That's where the phrase "the morning star" comes from, right?
It's exactly right. The morning star. The morning star was Venus, or Lucifer in Latin. The word in Hebrew was Heliel, but Heliel in Latin was Lucifer, the morning star, the bright morning star. Look it up in the dictionaries and in the encyclopedias and dictionaries of the Bible. Go to any good biblical seminary library, which I lived in for years. Some 60 years I've been living in seminary libraries. I love going to big libraries and doing research on all kinds of subjects in relation to theology and religion. And but anyway, so Jesus is Lucifer. Why? Because Jesus is referred to as the light of the world. So why? Because he brings light into the world. He is not the light, but he brings the light into the world. So he is like the bright morning star. Or go back to the book of Revelation 22:16, where we read, Jesus said, Jesus, I am Lucifer. I am the bright morning star. Look up bright morning star and it will tell you it's Lucifer. So when you talk about Luciferianism, you're talking about the idea that there is a highly intelligent, well-informed occult. And the word occult simply means hidden. So Luciferian means or implies that there is an occult or hidden knowledge, hidden wisdom that you are not privy to know anything about, which is the real truth about where the earth came from. It's the real truth about where we humans originated. So it's called Luciferianism because it's dealing with the word Lucifer, which means a bright, brilliant star. And so this is why today Luciferianism means, like you said, it has to do with Illuminati, those people who are highly, extremely well educated. They're not beer-drinking bums trying to find a job to pay their rent. These are highly intelligent, well-informed criminals who at the very top of the world are using us to make a lot of money off of us, buying and selling us and treating us like animals. And so the Luciferians are the people we would refer to as Illuminati, our masters who bought us and own us and play with us like we're children, like we're little 5-year-olds. And they're raping us and destroying our country and destroying our civilization because they're brilliant. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly where our religions have come from. They know precisely who started the banks and where governments come from and how all of this dirty stuff really works. And so we look at them as, they are elites. They are the politicians and the religious leaders. They're not leaders, they're criminals. It's a criminal organization running the earth. Bible says the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. It doesn't say the whole world except California or the whole world except America. No, the whole damn planet is in the grips and in the grips of darkness, stupidity, and ignorance. And the people who are running this country we call illuminated or Illuminati, which the religion of the Illuminati is Luciferianism, or the worship of intellectual, spiritual, hidden light. They're very enlightened people. They're not stupid. So that's what basically they are copying, the idea that Jesus is the light of the world. No, Obama says, I am the light of the world. Why? Why? Because I know things you don't know. And I'm going to use them to rape you good. Because I know exactly how to use the talk and walk the walk. And I know how commerce really works and how we own you and your baby and your business and everything else. And the American people have no idea about none of this. They haven't got the faintest idea what any of it means. Well, I've got all of this stuff on my Research Society website if you want to join it. It's only a one-time fee to donate to the website for a lifetime subscription to all of the dark stuff that I've been talking about for years. So if you're smart enough, evolved enough, and clever enough to know who I am and what I'm doing, then you might want to join my Research Society and get the 2 new videos, because I'm not going to be here much longer. I know. I'm very sick, and I'm not going to be here much longer.
No, I know that, Jordan, and that's why I wanted to especially tell you that I appreciate you taking this couple hours with us tonight. I know it's not even easy to do that any longer for you. And in fact, you even missed a show one time with me because you had gotten held up at a doctor, quite honestly. And you've been in poor health over the past few years. I know that.
But even poor now, though. I've been in very bad health right now. My heart, I know. I mean, it's just my gut feeling about myself. My heart is not going to be with me much longer, and I know that. I live with it every day, knowing that every day could be the last day, because I know what my heart is doing. I mean, it skips continually, and then many times in the past it will stop completely. My heart will stop completely. And for a few moments, I begin to get dizzy. And then all of a sudden, it'll start pumping again. And then I have to wait for a second or two until I get my equilibrium back. And then I'll be going along, and maybe an hour or so later, my heart will stop completely. And then I start to get dizzy, and then it begins to beat again. So this is what I've been living with for many years. And now my heart is far worse. So I know I'm not going to be here much longer. I have to say, honestly, that I'm very happy about that, because I feel I've already served my time. I did the best I could and ended up with a bad heart and lost my family, lost everything, and are ridiculed and held in low esteem throughout the world. So many people are mocking me and laughing at my name and my work and calling me names. I've come to the point where I don't really care to be around to watch what's going to happen to the human family. But I did the best I could to try and educate. But, it's up to people who want to know. And that's the big problem, is most people don't want to know. I always wanted to know, so I would do whatever I could to find the knowledge and save it and hold on to it as wisdom. But most people don't even know what wisdom is. So again, my website is JordanMaxwellShow.com, and I want to thank you again for allowing me to be on the show. And I'd be happy to do it anytime you want to give me a call. I'd be happy to do the show.
Right, and again, I appreciate it. And the fact is that, guys, you learn a lot from these kinds of discussions, and Jordan is certainly a rare individual. I understand what you mean about serving your time, and enough is enough. This is certainly a world which is in the hands of, I will give it the general term, the adversary. I believe that it is exactly as you describe it. It is very fair to recognize that a Satan is an adversary in court, okay, because it is the adversarial process. And literally speaking, I believe that mankind in general is now involved in the court battle for its soul. And we don't necessarily understand the court, but we do know that there is an adversary.
Well,
and you've definitely fought against that. You've spoken against that. You have done your best to educate people against that. And when it is your time to depart, if I don't get a chance to say to you again, I will tell you this: I hope that your journey is much more pleasant than this experience has been, because I do believe there is a journey for all of us. Part of it is here in this plane. This is not necessarily hell, although many people would like to turn it into hell on earth, because that's the way to profit, apparently. But this is not the way that you conduct yourself. This is not the way that I choose to, and I know very well that the people listening to this show are not interested in profiting off of the blood of others. JordanMaxwellShow.com. Go to that website. I thank you guys for listening to the Ocelli Effect tonight. And one thing I must say, regardless of how tightly the adversary's grip may appear on this world, it is not something that we don't have the choice to change at any given moment. It's just a matter of making that choice. Jordan Maxwell is my guest. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.
There are too many puppets in the mainstream and alternative media. Don't let nobody sell you poisons or lies. Get real honest info. Listen to the Ocelli Effect 5 days a week. And if you want more of the alternative, visit Ocelli.com and think for yourself.
Get ready for the Ocelli Effect.
WallStreetWindow.com. Gold, silver, the stock market. WallStreetWindow.com. The brilliant author of The War State brings you exclusive reports about the big changes upcoming in the markets. WallStreetWindow.com.
Perhaps you're invested deeply.
Perhaps you're not in deep enough. Maybe you're thinking about getting started. WallStreetWindow.com. Michael Swanson, the brilliant author of The War State, understood these trends professionally for many years, and now he gives you the benefit of his knowledge. WallStreetWindow.com. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now.
Chuck, you're a bold MF, and I mean that in a good way. You're a machine effer, and I like that about you. And you have a great show, and I love being on your show because it's just like talking to my bro, and it's not, it's not radio, so it makes me very relaxed, and I love it. And I hope people support you, man. I hope people vote with their dollars and really understand the value of having you.